श्री एकनाथी भागवत सत्संग। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री सरस्वताय नमः। ओम श्री गुरु दत्तात्रेय नमः। ओम श्री महालक्ष्मी नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः। गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. So we'll be continuing Shri Eknathi Bhagavad Satsang, that is chapter 2. We'll be starting from Shri Eknathi Bhagavad chapter 2 verse 36 onwards. So in the last verse, we understood that the king was going to, that is, the sage is going to give the king a lesson. So what does he say? O king, I will tell you the secret way of devotion. This knowledge is related to the details of various codes of conduct and explains how action is offered to God. So that is what we are going to be learning today. So let us start. Chapter 2 verse 36. By his body, speech, mind, organs, or by intellect, or even by his own self, whatever the devotee does according to his essential nature may be offered to that Narayana completely. The action may be with some intention or unintentional. It may be according to the dictates of Vedas or according to social custom or following one's own instinct. All should be offered and surrendered to God. This is the Bhagavata way of life. It's a very, very important verse. What is it being told? Any action that you perform, whether it is of eating, whether it is you're seeing, whether it is, you're doing something, you're studying, you might be performing any action. All actions must be offered and surrendered to the lotus feet of the Divine Lord. And what is it called? That is called the Bhagavata way of life. When we surrendered every action, understand, it does not incur any karma. We have to first surrender all our actions unto the lotus feet of the Lord, because that's a very important part of understanding how do you perform selfless action in this world. Just as there are many waves on water which are very fast, but wherever they go, it is all water only. Similarly, all action of the devotee is immediately merged into God. See, here it is very important word is being mentioned. What is it saying? We are not talking about everybody in the world. We are only referring to the devotees of the Lord. So when you become the devotee of the Divine Lord, Shri Krishna Bhagwan, Shri Krishna Paramatma, so what happens? Every action of yours is surrendered unto Him. It gets merged unto Him. Because then when you become one with the Divine Lord, then you are not performing the action. You are just a puppet in the hands of the puppeteer. He is using you as an instrument to serve his purpose. Didn't it the same lesson did Krishna Guruji teach this morning? What does he say? Lord Shri Krishna Bhagwan has created all of us. We are like the robots. But when the mind comes, you use your mind, you use your ego and say you perform actions which are going to, incur karma. But when you do exactly what is ordained by the Divine Lord, then there is no karma accruing at all. Then you are actually serving His purpose. But when you don't do that, what happens? You become an independent jiva. That is what we learned yesterday, and we are going to learn. Especially, it's a very beautiful chapter in which Lord Shri Krishna Bhagwan talks this whole concept very beautifully, and that is chapter 12. And you're going to understand that in detail, so let me not jump right now. In this verse, priority is to be given to action by mind, to be offered to God. Then comes by sequence the actions done by organs, then intellect, then ego, etc. And last is the action done by physical body. This is very beautiful. What is he saying? See, he's saying in this verse, what is being explained is priority has to be, you have to prioritize. And what does it mean? Priority has to be given to action. Priority is given to action by mind. So first are the thoughts. See, action, the physical action happens in the end. Where does the action actually get performed? The first is the mind. You think, thought constructs are there. You're going to think, oh, today I'm going to go to this restaurant. I'm going to have my dinner. I want to eat this food. I want to eat the pizza. You might just desire, but the action is happening in the mind. You've already visualized what pizza you want to order, and you've already performed that action in your mind. So those actions, so first that action in the mind has to be offered. So we are going in a sequence. It's very beautifully explained. Then to be offered to God. Then comes by sequence the actions done by organs. This is actually very beautiful also. And this is very nicely explained in Bhagavad Gita. So those who have done Bhagavad Gita with Krishna Guruji, you must have learned this lesson. What does he say? He says sacrifice. When the eyes see something, we take in. So what do? We offer sacrifice to the God who is residing there. Means what? It is offered to God. That's exactly what it means. So every organ, when you speak, so what do? We first offer the prayer. Means I am doing this satsang. So first we do a recite a prayer, because let the words be of your wisdom. Anything that is coming from my mouth is not my knowledge. So first we are, seeking the blessing. Then we offer. So that is called a sacrifice it's performing. So when you eat the food, what happens? The food is going inside your stomach. There is a sacrifice that happens. And that is an offering to the Lord. It is offering to God. So every action. Next is, first is mind, then comes the organs. So when you see some beautiful flower, you're admiring the nature. What do you say? Oh, so beautiful. You say, oh, the Lord's universe is so beautiful. We offer into Him. So you are not enjoying yourself. First we are offering to the Divine Lord, and then whatever that little thing is there, we accept as a prasad. That offer, once you offer, then you accept from it. But if you're using your mind and you're enjoying, you're only titillating your senses, then there is no offering that gets performed. This lesson we have done very beautifully. Krishna Guruji has taught us in Bhagavad Gita, and the same thing, even in this verse, we are learning the same thing. Then what is being told here? So the next sequence is, then comes by sequence the actions done by organs. Then intellect. So intellectually you're thinking, right? So when a knowledge is given, what happens? You're contemplating. Your intellect has to give the right reasoning. Okay, when you reason out, that intellect is going to give you the right understanding. So that also has to be offered. Then comes what? Ego. Oh my God, this is very dangerous. Ego is what? Oh, I am doing it. I have this knowledge. I know this, I know that. So this I know is a very strong in every individual. Understand, I cannot know. Any kind of ego. Ego is very dangerous. And one should always, give up this ego. The ego has to be surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Divine Lord. Then what happens? Then you just become the best tool in His hands. Then He can use you to serve His purpose in the best of, God-given ability that you have. He will be able to bring that ability out, and you will be the best performing tool for Him, right? You have come here for what? There is a mission. Didn't we do this beautiful lesson in Shripad Sri Vallabh? Dattatreya has very nicely said how God brings back His devotees over and over again only to serve His purpose. There is a mission why we have been born with Him. Why we come here, why we get this human birth, why do we meet Him, why have we come? All this is so beautifully explained. But what happens is, when you come, when you are taken birth, when you take a body, then you forget, who you are until you meet your Guru. And then He uncovers you. Then He puts you on the path of the Swadharma. The purpose of your existence is being taught to you. Why have you come here? That is what is being taught, imparted, and then He will tell you what is your Swadharma. And then He will put you on the path to serve God's mission. But what happens? If you use your ego and say, look, I am an independent, body, I am an individual, I have my family, my house, my children, you get lost in the Maya. Then the purpose is defeated. So what happens? Then you also are bound by the karma, the framework, the rules which is created, and there are the codes of conduct, the rules apply to you then. Then you are going to get into the circle of birth and death. So that is something we need to avoid. So giving up ego is a very important thing. Surrendering the ego is a very, very important aspect. Then what else is the last? And last is action done by physical body. This is very important. See, the final action of all, everything, is physical body. Physically, you're going to do that. How is it? See, when you think something, I just gave a stupid example. So, okay, today I want to go eat a pizza for my dinner. So, you have thought where? In the mind. You've already tasted it because you've just been, I want to eat this particular pizza. So which means you already know what is that you want to eat. So already that action has already performed in your mind, you know. Then by sense organs, which means your taste buds are already like telling, I want to eat this particular pizza. Okay, it gets, okay, it's a margarita pizza. And then you finally end up, where do you go? You go to the pizza place and then you order the food and then you eat. The moment you eat, what happens? If you do not offer, before you partake of it, you must offer it to the Lord, and then only partake of it as a prasad, as a blessed food. But if you don't do that, what happens? You have incurred a karma. The physical action is a culmination of everything that happens. So do you know how fast this thought process works? Even before anything has happened, the karma, that is the action, has already taken place in your mind. So that is why you have to be very vigilant about what happens in your mind, the thought constructs, how this work. So that is why we need to have everything good thoughts, and every action, whatever that your mind is thinking, has to be surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord. That is what is very beautifully explained by who? Ekanathi Maharaj here. So let us continue. O king, please listen. Sorry, I missed a. The characteristics of Bhagavata way of life is that all action done by the mind, the intellect, consciousness and ego, etc. is to be offered to God. Please listen to how this is done. So he is now detailing out how this has to be done. O king, please listen. I will tell you how the devotee is not affected by his own natural actions. The Supreme Person, Lord Shri Krishna Bhagavan, the Lord himself, becomes manifest in the mind of the devotee because of his limitless self-knowledge. Now, only when you are a devotee, okay, this is very, very beautiful. Only when you are a devotee, you have 100% surrendered to the Divine Lord. Then what does the Lord do? He's something very unique he does. The Supreme Person, the Lord himself, becomes manifest in the mind of the devotee because of his limitless self-knowledge. So the thoughts are also one which comes from the Divine Lord. What did I tell you? When you become the highest devotee, when you become that 100%, when you have 100% surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord, then he uses you as an instrument to serve his purpose. So whatever the thought has to come in the mind comes from whom? The Divine Lord. He uses you to perform that particular action. Then you are not responsible for anything in your world. The Lord takes charge of everything, but for which you have to be that devotee. And here is the process of how do you surrender everything, is what Ekanath Maharaj is very beautifully detailing out here. Then let's continue. By this, all his thoughts, his intentions and doubts, etc. become one with the Lord. Oh my God, this is very powerful. The devotees thus remain innocent. They become truthful in their intentions, just as the Lord is truth itself. Now, who's the Divine Lord? He's truth. He's knowledge incarnate. He's Satchidanand. Truth, knowledge and bliss. Now, all this, he himself is the one who is limitless, and the self-knowledge which comes within you is from him alone. So what is being said here? Please understand, this is very, very powerful. By this, all his thoughts, whose thought? The devotee's thoughts, his intentions and doubts, whatever that you might have, your intentions, your doubts, etc., become one with the Divine Lord, because you're one with him. You're not separate from him at all. The devotees thus remain innocent. Then what is decimated here? The mind. The mind, you're not using your mind. You don't say I, okay? You're not saying I here at all. Who is the one who's now giving you those thoughts? It is the Divine Lord himself. They become truthful. So what do you become? Truthful. You will only speak truth alone in their intentions, just as the Lord is truth itself. Because who's the truth? The Lord himself. So when he is within you, when he is manifesting within you, then what happens? You're going to speak the same words. You're one with the truth. So truth only will come out of your mouth. Nothing else. Even the thought, everything is going to be absolutely pure. Next, just as the game of chess, the king, the minister, the camel, the horse, all are made of wood only. Similarly, all the thoughts in the mind of a devotee are God only. So every thought in your mind is of God only. There's nothing else going to be, because all your thoughts are going to be very beautiful. Why? Because the Lord himself is within you, giving that thoughts. Then you're not going to have your own. I doesn't exist. You're merged in oneness with the divine Lord. So every thought in your mind also is from the divine Lord himself. Next, about whatever object he thinks by his mind, the Paramatman becomes that object itself. We are talking about the highest kind of a devotee. Please understand, you have to reach this stage. About whatever object he thinks by his mind. Now who's thinking? Think also you don't do. It is done by him only. The thoughts are of whose wisdom? It's the thoughts of divine Lord, because he's the one who's giving you those thoughts. The Paramatman becomes that object itself. Thus his devotion very easily reaches higher and higher states of ecstasy. Then his devotion occupies his waking state, his dream and sleep also. And self-knowledge being imbibed in his psyche, he has continuous recollectedness about the Lord. So what happens is, every aspect of your being is only thinking about the divine Lord. So why? Because you are in oneness with the divine Lord. So the self-knowledge, which is what is the divine Lord. What does he say in one of the verses we understood? He says, the Lord, the Supreme Person, the Lord himself becomes manifest in the mind of the devotee because of his limitless self-knowledge. So that self-knowledge, see, the knowledge comes from the supreme divine being, okay, the consciousness, that is Vidya, which is what we are learning, okay, in Tripura Rahasyam. And who is the goddess over there? Tripurari. She is Tripura. And that is the supreme divine consciousness. And that Vidya, which is the self-knowledge, reveals itself. So what is being saying? Manifest in your mind. So who's manifesting it? The divine Lord, the Supreme Person, because of his limitless power. And then what happens? About whatever object, okay, we did this. When the mind attains the state of contentment, devotion deepens. And as attention is fully joined to God, the trinity of the meditator, the meditation and the object of meditation all become one in ecstasy of devotion. What does it mean? Very simple. When the mind attains the state of contentment. So what is most important in our life? A man is running after desires. We have n number of desires. Okay. Now that is the root cause of all our miseries. Chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. The first thing which Krishna Bhagwan teaches is what? He says the source, unfulfilled desire ensues anger. Everybody has some desires in their life. And because of this desire, we are running after it. We have this anger. We have all other things that goes on in our life. So when you give up these desires completely, what happens? You attain a state of contentment. And this is a very beautiful state to be in. You know why? Because whatever is offered to you by the divine Lord, you will be very happy and contented. You are not craving for anything in your world. And even if you think, the divine Lord will fulfill that desire. You don't even have to bother about it. You don't even have to ask about it. You don't even have to desire for it. The divine Lord fulfills everything that you need. He takes care what is required for you. And understand, more than what you have desired, he will bestow upon you. Whatever the Lord offers you or bestows upon you is something that you can't even imagine. It is beyond your desire also. But this understanding a human being doesn't have. And you know what is the problem? Because everybody has a desire and they want it in their own timing. And in the divine Lord's world, it doesn't work like that. Everything happens at God's appointed timing. And this is a very important thing for you to understand. The God's appointed timing means what? It doesn't match, the clock doesn't match with our timing and his timing. It's very different. There was a time, I always keep giving the same example. We wanted to establish the temple. And my Guruji always has told me this thing. Who are you to do it? Who is this I? Is this Rajshri Ma's temple? No, it is Krishna Bhagwan's temple. When he wants to get it established, whenever the time is right, at God's appointed timing, that is at his will, He will make those things happen. If his temple has to be established, and he will ensure that the funding comes, he will ensure everything happens. But what are you? You are just a tool. You are just a means through whom this work is getting done. He's using you to serve his purpose. So you cannot think you are doing something. This is a very important lesson. And don't think, oh, this should happen, this is not happening. Nothing happens the way we want it. We have always have to surrender and accept whatever happens at the God's appointed timing and as per his will alone. This is a very important lesson for us to understand. And especially when you are the devotee of the Divine Lord. He knows what is best for you. He knows when to give you. He knows what to do, what is right. Sometimes it doesn't agree to us. You know why? The mind comes in. So when the mind is coming in, it doesn't gel with us. So what happens? There is a conflict. So you might get angry. That anger is not going to lead you anywhere. So that is why this contentment is not experienced by, those seekers on the path. So you have to become the devotee. And then what happens? When the mind attains the state of contentment, your devotion deepens. For the devotion to grow, first you have to give up all the desires that you have. You have to completely surrender, understand the God, the Lord, the Father, Mother, your everything. He knows what is good for you and what he has to do for you. He is going to take care. Your job is to just do your job, nothing more than that. So don't run after things. Surrender to his will. And then what happens? You will attain the state of contentment. When you are in the state of contentment, your devotion will deepen. It grows. You will grow in devotion. It's a very beautiful state to come in. And it's not such an easy thing to achieve, because you have to first overcome all the desires. You have to give up all the desires. You have to purify your heart, purify your mind. And most important, overcome all the 6 enemies of humankind. It's very, very important. Then, and as attention is fully joined to God, then your complete attention is only for the Divine Lord. If you're eating, you're sleeping, you're sitting, you're doing any work, you're only doing for Krishna Bhagwan. You might be living in this world, you might have family, you might have children, you might be doing all other duties, but you're only serving the Divine Lord alone. You are not going to take the ownership, oh, this is my child, this is my husband, this is my wife, this is mine, my house, nothing. Everything belongs to Shri Krishna Bhagwan. Shri Krishna Paramatma has given me, and everything is his blessing to me. I am only a caretaker. I have to do my duty to the highest of my ability, and you will be the best one. You will be the best mother. You will be the best wife. You will be best of everything. You will be the best devotee. You will be the best disciple. That is what you have to do. And understanding that everything belongs to the Divine Lord alone. There is no I in that. Then the trinity of the meditator, the meditation, and the object of meditation all become one in the ecstasy of devotion. In that state, when you have surrendered everything, understand, the meditator, what is he saying? The trinity of the meditator. Who's the trinity of the meditator here? The meditation. Okay, you are sitting in the meditation. Meditation on whom? The Divine Lord. And the object of meditation. The object is the Divine Lord. And all become one in the ecstasy of devotion. And everything becomes one alone. And then you are actually meditating throughout the day. Meditation is not... This is a very unique state, which my Guruji has explained. You know what he says? It's not meditation doesn't mean you have to sit in one place and you have to focus your mind. You're not going to be meditating. Meditating simply means when you take the name of the Lord and serve him in every job of yours, whether it is cooking food, you're 100% in that action. This morning he gave this lesson very beautifully. What did he say? If you're going to gym, don't put in the music in your ear. You're not doing justice to that task. You have to be focused in that exercising the oneness. That is called meditation. When you are cooking food, you have to be 100% in that. Your focus and attention has to be 100% in that. That is meditation. Then you're only thinking of the Divine Lord. I have to make this the Naivedya for the Divine Lord. So I'm cooking for him. Your mind is 100%. That is meditation actually. But what happens to individuals where we have million thoughts going on in the background? We are not 100% to anything. We are not doing justice to anything. He gave a very beautiful explanation why we must read. You know, reading is a very important aspect. See, now you're listening. Listening is one thing, then reading is another thing. So when you look at the words and when we go over each word, there is a meaning. That meaning gets absorbed because we are reading, we're listening, and we're taking it in. But if you do not read, if you do not practice, please understand the knowledge just goes away. We are not putting in effort. So this focus is very important. So that is meditation in reality. You don't have to sit in one place to do any meditation. Trust me. My Guruji has always told me, you're meditating. When my Guruji is cooking in the kitchen, please understand, he's in this meditative state. So that is why if someone comes and talks in front of him, he'll get very angry because they're making him lose the focus. He's in oneness with that task. He's lost in his self. And this is what we have to practice. And what happens normally when especially two women come in the kitchen, we'll chatter. They will chatter. And he doesn't like, it's very irritating because we're losing the focus. So you're not doing that task properly. So that is why my Guruji will say, please, if you're talking, get out of the kitchen. Don't come here. Any subject, even if it is eating, you know, he'll give us knowledge. When we are having breakfast, we have to respect that food. Today, have you seen people what they do? They sit in front of TV and eat the food. Do you think any essence that's a sattva from that food is going to touch your body also? It is not going to. Because we are disrespecting the Annapurna Devi, who's the food, the very essence of food. Instead of the sattva going in, nothing goes in at all. So we have to be 100%, you know, we have to give 100% attention and concentration and focus to whatever task we are doing. That is meditation in reality. I've seen many people. The worst come is today. I've seen young children, babies, you know. I've seen mothers. They will hand over the mobile phone and they'll play cartoons and they'll feed the child. Do you think you as a mother are doing justice to the young one? And you're imbibing wrong practices. So what happens to the child? The child is also developing a similar kind of habit. The food that is eating, whatever it eats, the sattva is not absorbed in the body. You're already disrespecting the goddess. So who is to be blamed here? So these are the very important lessons that we need to follow. So that is meditation for you. Then, while there is separate existence to the states of fourth aspect of attention, that is the witnessing aspect, that is number one is the fourth aspect of attention, number two is the witnessing aspect, and the third state of consciousness, which is beyond the mind, and it is called Turiya, Sakshini and Unmani. The devotees turn them in towards the devotion to God only. These are the highest states of oneness with the Divine Lord. But first what we have to do is we have to come as the most important as fourth aspect of attention, which is witnessing aspect. So what should you do? You have to always witness yourself. Stand out and watch what happens to you. And how do you control yourself is to control your nature. When you understand your nature, you're witnessing everything that's happening, you will be able to control yourself. So this is something Krishna Guruji has always taught, you know, stand out and observe. This body, this person is going to react like this. When you understand how you're going to react, what will you do? You will be able to control even the next time, even before the reaction has happened. So witness state is a very important aspect. Then comes the state of consciousness. You're conscious about everything that goes around, which means what? You have to be observant. Observation is a very important skill which you have to develop. So for highest level of consciousness, you know, you are able to understand there is something beyond happening as well. Recently, my Guruji gave an example. How, you know, he was giving example of some people. I forgot the whole story, but in that he said how the fourth person or the fifth person who came, he knew there was something wrong there. He was aware of it. That means the consciousness, that level, that's the next level, which means there is something wrong. They get to know. You are aware of that event either before happening or even after it has happened. You know what exactly it is. So that's the level of consciousness you have to go reach. How does that happen? When you're in oneness with the Divine Lord. And then comes, which is beyond the mind. Beyond the mind is called Turiya, which means you have transcended the mind. you have transcended your gunas and beyond Maya, the delusion. Then you are in the state of Turiya. You are always in oneness with the Divine Lord and Unmani. So this is when the devotees turn them in towards the devotion to God only. Beyond Krishna Bhagwan, nothing exists in your world. Thus, without willing or intending to have faith, effortlessly, deep faith comes into being. Faith becomes identified with God, then willful offering is no longer any extraordinary thing. It is very simple surrendering without any effort. This is actually very beautiful. What is he saying here? Thus, without willing or intending to have faith. See, in the initial stages, when you are a disciple, when you are a seeker, when you come to the Gurudev, what do? You have to willfully put the effort. You have to do it from by your will. Okay, and most important, what is he saying? Intending to have faith. The faith is not absolute. You have to intend. You have to put faith. It's an effort. First, it's an effort that you have to put. Then comes effortlessly. So that's without willing or intending to have faith. Effortlessly, deep faith comes into being. This is later. Initially, you have to practice. You have to show your faith. It is not 99.99% of the faith. It is absolute faith. Even when somebody wakes you from, in the middle of the night, suddenly they wake you up and ask, what is that one thing which you believe? Your word from your mouth, thumb like that, Krishna Bhagwan. Absolute faith. You cannot blink at all. It has to spontaneously come from your mouth. That is the faith that has to develop. If somebody asks you, who's your Gurudev? You can't call him some name. My Krishna Bhagwan. That is the faith. You know for sure he is your Krishna Bhagwan. There are no doubts in your life. So that is the level of faith that you need to cultivate. And this is the faith that you have to develop initially. Then it becomes effortlessly. Initially you have to put effort, which later becomes effortless. Then the deep faith comes into being. Then the deep faith. Yesterday we did a very interesting word. What does Krishna Bhagwan say? He used a very important word. It's called purity of faith. See, the faith cannot be tainted. The word is the purity of faith. And here it is saying deep faith comes into being, which means it is not overnight task. You have to do your practice. You have to, do the sadhana. You have to develop this faith. Faith becomes identified with God. Faith is God. Faith is Guru. That is what, and faith is love. Everything, the foundation of its existence is faith alone. Without faith, nothing shall be accomplished. Then, willful offering is no longer any extraordinary thing. Then what does it mean? See, initially you have to willfully do it. You have been taught. You have been given the knowledge. You must do this. You have to offer dakshina. You have to do this. Why? There is a reason. So you have to willfully do. Willfully means you have to put your will to do it initially. Later, what happens? Then willful offering is no longer any extraordinary thing. Then it will automatically happen through you. You're not even going to put any effort to do something. There is no willful action required. Then it is very simple, surrendering without any effort. Then your surrendering happens without any effort. So my Guruji has always taught me this. You know what he said? He said initially you have to put lot of effort to do things. And the surrender happens at the very end. Because surrender doesn't happen overnight. Because the ego exists. That ego will raise its ugly head when you least expect it. Many a time you'll think, oh, today I've understood this knowledge, I know this lesson. And now I don't have any ego. Don't even dare think of it. It's very funny because you don't even know when that ugly ego will raise its head. It's very dangerous. So that is why the surrendering is very important. And when you have surrendered yourself at the lotus feet of your Gurudev, then nothing will trouble you. But that surrendering has to be 100%. Because understand, the same lesson, no matter how many years you have been with him, whatever the day one lesson, which was whatever your weaknesses, right? I wouldn't say weaknesses, your tendencies or vasanas, which is what the Guru destroys. So whatever test he might have given you at at that time will repeat back even after 17 years or whatever number of years you are. You might be 5 years, 10 years, how many ever years. The same lesson is going to be repeated. The same test will come to you to see where you actually stand. Does it affect you, or have you been able to overcome? Overcome means what? Overcome means, has this knowledge imbibed within you? Have you been able to surrender your ego, or it is still getting hurt? See, understand, the ego is head to toe. The mind is head to toe. Who's getting hurt? The mind. The ego is the identity with the body. Oh, it's me, I'm getting hurt. The I is what is getting hurt. So that should not happen. So this is a test which will constantly come to you. The guru is going to be testing you out in the way you can least expect. You can't even know that he's actually testing you out. And that's very beautiful. So I'm just giving you how this works. And at the end, it is very simple, surrendering without any effort. And when you reach that stage, and then the surrendering to him completely happens without any effort. In his case, dream has no place. It is false because he is experiencing his true self. The waking state is peeled and knowledge has emerged, and the satisfaction in the sleeping state is culled and collected together, well placed at the feet of the Lord. So what is he saying? Then dreams don't come at all. When does the dreams come about? Because those are your thoughts, those are your things that is bothering you. Whatever we see in the dream is what is affecting us, and that is what comes out in the dream. So dream itself is unreal. And then what happens as you evolve? You're not going to be dreaming about anything. He's actually very beautifully explained. In his case, dream has no place. Then no dreams are going to even come to you. It is false because he is experiencing his true self. So now you're not going to have any dreams. All the dreams are false. And what will you experience? Your true self is what you will experience. And that comes as you evolve. The waking state is peeled. Peeled means what? All that you thought means the ignorance is gone and knowledge has emerged. What has happened? Who's peeling that? The layers of ignorance in the waking state. Your guru peels off the ignorance, uncovers the layers and layers of ignorance covering this knowledge. And then what happens? The knowledge emerges, and the satisfaction in the sleeping state is culled and collected together. Satisfaction is you just sleep like a child. There is nothing at all. You're not thinking. There is no thought. There is no mind. There is nothing. You're just sleeping. And what happens? Well placed. Where is it placed? At the lotus feet of the Divine Lord. That is the state you will be in. Then know that so that in this way, mind surrenders itself. Only the devotees endowed with divine wisdom can understand this state. So what is it saying? So that in this way, the mind surrenders itself. And this is a very long drawn process. This is not such an easy thing. And that process is a very important thing, which is what it's a spiritual process as you walk that path. Only the devotees endowed with divine wisdom can understand this state. So you need to get to that level. And who's going to endow you with that wisdom? The Lord himself. It's your guru who will endow you with this wisdom. And then you will understand that state. But for that, you have to put in your efforts to evolving to that level. Know that thus all the functions of the mind are surrendered easily to the self, the Atman. Now listen to the way in which the organs of the senses and action are surrendered to God. So now we have done so far about the mind. Now next we will be beginning with the senses and the action, which I will continue tomorrow. So now we will stop here. I hope this is very interesting. Now you only need to do your sadhana. So with that, thank you for joining the Sri Ekanathi Bhagavad Satsang. Have a good day and good evening to you all. God bless.